Yeah, there's a few of them. Some coaches leverage all or some of them. I would say a big one is networking through LinkedIn, because a lot of people, most people I'm working with are in a career transition. The recruiting side of LinkedIn is very helpful. So LinkedIn Recruiter is where you find people who are in that active job transition. So I do reach out to individuals there to see if I can help them and then set up an intro call. So LinkedIn's very effective for me. I also go to several franchise.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is Andrew Ritterling. Career coach, business owner, and top producer at the Entrepreneur Source, where he helps burned out professionals, laid off executives, and high achievers stuck in career stagnation take back control of their work and their lives. Drawing from his own journey of leaving corporate grind, Andrew guides clients through a proven no-pressure process to clarify their vision, explore hundreds of scalable business opportunities, and discover career paths they didn't know existed. Blending business strategy, personal development, and a deep belief in living with purpose over pressure, Andrew has helped countless professionals redefine success on their own terms, freeing them up from their 9-to-5 hamster wheel and into a life where income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity are fully aligned with their values. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hey, Rexhen, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited as well. Thanks for the intro. I'm humble. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. I just wanted to learn a little bit more about when it comes to the beginnings of your coaching business. First of all, like, what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, thanks for having me. Really excited. I started my coaching business about 4 years ago, and I came from corporate America, got my MBA, went down the corporate path, did a lot of different things, and I kept getting laid off. And they would hire me back, or another company would hire me back, laid off again. So I found myself on the hamster wheel, right? Just doing the same thing over and over. So I kind of said, enough's enough. I want to do my own thing. And the Entrepreneur Source is a franchise where we're able to help people explore new opportunities in their career. So I actually worked with an Entrepreneur Source coach that I knew from Colorado when I was laid off. And she took me through the process of learning about the options. And I kind of said, I like what you do. Is that an option? And she said, absolutely, it is. So now we're peers, but I'm in the business of helping people look at business. And it's been a lot of fun, right? I wanted to get out of corporate America. And now I'm passionate about sharing my story of what else is out there, what is beyond the corporate grind, and how can you work for yourself? And is that a good pathway for you? So not only do I have the personal satisfaction of finding the freedom I wanted, but I'm also able to help people explore that. And that's really what got me excited about what I do and what keeps me coming back every day.
Interesting. So I want to learn more a little bit about the Entrepreneur Source. So this is something that doesn't, or we haven't seen on the podcast before. So you mentioned it's a franchise. That seems like an interesting kind of setup. So how does that work?
I think there's, I don't know how many coaches we're up to, but we're around 300 coaches or so, give or take. And the Entrepreneur Source has been around for about 40 years. And it has always specialized in helping people expand their mindsets and look at entrepreneurship from an educational perspective. So yeah, anybody that's interested in doing that or becoming a coach, it is an avenue to do it, is become a franchise owner. So I'm in the franchise of helping people look at business opportunities, right? But I've only been in it for 4 years. They've been around for about 40 years. So we have a proven track record of not only the partnerships that we work with, the business models we represent or that we work with, but also we really specialize in helping our coaches with education, discovery, and awareness. Those are the three big pillars that we focus on. And that's what the Entrepreneur Source was founded on, are those three pillars.
But when thinking about the clients that you work with right now, would you say that, just for people to understand, would you say those are kind of like your clients, or are they clients that the Entrepreneur Source finds for you? How does that work?
Well, a little bit of both. So the Entrepreneur Source has a good support in my marketing, my outreach efforts. They do have several mechanisms that they use to help me find new people, but I also find many of my own as well. So it's a combination of my own outreach on LinkedIn or my circle of influence or networking. And then there is a few opportunities from the corporate headquarters that they provide people to talk with. And our process is unique in the fact that we have a 30-minute discovery call. And anybody that wants to chat with me, we do it. And we then figure out, is this a good pathway or not? Because business is a huge decision in someone's life. So we really want to make sure it's the right thing to explore. But I have a mix of some of my own clients and some that comes from the Entrepreneur Source.
But it does give you some of the freedom of you, if let's say you wanted to take some time off, you have control over your setup with the Entrepreneur Source.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could take a month off. In fact, our fourth baby is due in a few weeks. I'll probably be taking 2 or 3 weeks off. So absolutely flexible. And if there's Wi-Fi connection, I can work there, right? So some coaches live in Europe and do this, right? So absolutely a lot of flexibility. Obviously, as a coach, if you don't work, right, there's not really anybody doing the work that you're doing. So you want to make sure you're thoughtful and strategic about your time off, but it does lead to a lot of flexibility. And I'm able to work when I want. And the coolest part is I get to work with who I want. Not every client's a good client, right? So we want to make sure we're spending our time on the ones that really make sense. And that also gives you a lot of freedom and flexibility.
That's an interesting setup there. So right now, when working with your clients and going through the coaching journey with them, what about it would you say you find the most rewarding?
That's a great question. And it's kind of twofold, right? I think selfishly, the freedom, the flexibility. My wife's a stay-at-home mom. We got a fourth child on the way. So it's awesome to be a present father and to have the flexibility and the income that I really need to support my family. So that's the selfish side of it. But when I work with clients, I would say it's not always about the money. In fact, rarely is it about the money or how much money can someone make in a business model. It boils down to really figuring out what do they need in their life, right? Their lifestyle, their wealth, their equity. So helping people identify what they're looking for and what they're wanting to achieve, and then helping them find the right vehicle to get there. That's what's really exciting, is because it's breaking them out of their old mindset of maybe 9 to 5 to what else is out there and how can I have more control? So with that, people are able to achieve their goals, right? For example, I had a lady I worked with who her main goal was to start a family, but she was so busy and overwhelmed in corporate America that wasn't possible. So we helped explore several business models, and she ended up doing property management. And she called me about 6 months later saying, hey, I'm expecting my first child. We're starting a family. So that was a light bulb moment for me that it's not about the money, right? It's about how to help someone achieve those goals and then helping them find the ways to get there. So that's really where a lot of satisfaction comes from.
And we also talked a little bit about at the beginning, when it comes to the ideal client profile, we talked about them being entrepreneurs. How would you describe that even deeper? Is there a certain demographic or a certain industry or certain other like common goals or commonalities that they have? How would you describe your ideal client profile?
That's a really good one. And it's hard to answer that because I've worked with people in the retirement phase and early in their career, right out of college. Or in some cases, people don't want to go to college and they'd rather invest in the business. So it could be even earlier than college, right? So there is a huge spectrum of people all across their corporate experience that need support. The main commonalities are people who are curious about business ownership. They don't have to know that that's what they want to do, or know what they want to do. They just have to be open to the idea of, hey, owning my own business sounds intriguing and I'm willing to see what that looks like. And is it the right thing for me? And they also have to be open-minded, right? I really specialize in helping people look outside their comfort zone and expand their horizons. If somebody comes to me saying, hey, I'm looking for a business model that's a restaurant, I'm not going to show them just restaurants. I'm going to show them a variety of things so that they're able to validate, is a restaurant the right thing and why, right? So they have to be open-minded. They have to be willing to go through the journey with me, which can take us several months. This is not a fast experience, but if they're open-minded, they show up prepared to every meeting, they're engaged, they give me a little bit of time and energy, that is a great profile. They just have to be excited to learn, curious about business, and show up prepared. And when they have that mindset, it's amazing what we can find. So that can happen at any point. It can happen in retirement, in middle management, or early in their career. The biggest thing is that anything we look at would require a level of funding, right? So that would be something I could help also provide education, is SBA loans, or how would we look at funding and how do we problem solve that? So somebody without decent credit or without some sort of net worth would have a challenging path, but we could still work together and explore. But that is one thing we have to consider. Is a reality is there's an investment associated if we find the right thing. So sometimes right out of college, it's just not the right time. But there are parents and friends and family, grandparents who do invest in their children or grandchildren. So it is still possible, but that is something to consider, is where are you at in your career, and is making an investment and a change of your career going to make sense?
And right now, how is the engagement of working with you? Is there one-on-one coaching? Is there a program? How do you describe that?
Yeah, it's mainly one-on-one. So I spend about 3 meetings, about 45 minutes, where I go over several assessments where we get to know personality traits, motivators, and their goals, right? We learn a lot about personally, professionally, where are you and where do you want to go in your career? So that is about the first 3 meetings, is setting up that foundation, getting to know them, and then strategically being thoughtful about where we want to go. After that point is when we start really diving into specific opportunities. And that's where the learning kind of evolves, right? So, but generally speaking, I am with them every step of the way, as I'm there to guide them through A to Z of what it looks like. And then as they explore the business models, they are learning directly from that business model, but I am still there in their corner as a guide on the side, making sure they're validating it, vetting it out, and then finding their clarity on if and what is the best decision for them.
And so you said there's initially 4 sessions, or does it expand beyond that?
Yeah, it's typically about 3 sessions to start. If we need to go slower, I can go slower. If I need to go faster, I can go faster, but generally once a week for about 3 sessions. And then after that, we go directly into learning about each business model. And that's where it can take several weeks, because we want to really vet out every model. But I still meet with my clients very regularly in that second phase of learning, because I want to make sure I'm answering questions and being in their corner to walk them through it. So the whole journey can take, I don't know, 4 to 6 months on average. I've helped somebody in 6 weeks, but I've also taken 2 years with somebody. So a lot of times we're doing life, and life can be messy. So we have to make adjustments, and owning a business is a big decision. So timing is everything. So I'm a very patient individual. As long as somebody's engaged and learning, it can take some time, or they can go quickly, but I'm along the path every step of the way.
Cool. And I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and this is a question that maybe other coaches would be interested in, is when it comes to marketing, you did mention that you do get some support from the Entrepreneur Source on marketing. So what you know from what you're doing, what marketing channel do you see working really well?
Yeah, there's a few of them. Some coaches leverage all or some of them. I would say a big one is networking through LinkedIn, because a lot of people, most people I'm working with are in a career transition. The recruiting side of LinkedIn is very helpful. So LinkedIn Recruiter is where you find people who are in that active job transition. So I do reach out to individuals there to see if I can help them, and then set up an intro call. So LinkedIn's very effective for me. I also go to several franchise expos around the country. I like to go to Orlando and some other places where I'm meeting people who are learning about franchises or business. So that's another great source. Resumes. Some coaches leverage resume sites like Indeed or some other ones like that to figure out who's looking for a new career path and then reach out directly and say, hey, can we help you? And then a big one, which is probably the most effective one, is really referrals, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm adding value to my clients and they're learning, no matter where they end up, they're going to know that I had their best interests in mind and send me friends, family, coworkers, colleagues, etc. So I would say referrals are huge. Those are great clients. So that would probably be some of the main sources we leverage.
Cool. And those are kind of like the sources that we've seen too, especially with career coaches, is number one, LinkedIn. Then the referral network is always there from the start, and it just like continues to grow over time.
And I also forgot one. I didn't mean to cut you off, but also networking, right? So BNI groups, there's a couple of virtual groups, and there's tons of networking groups. I think you can't sleep on those because those are very impactful. Those generally take a lot more time, right? That is not a quick lead source by any means. But as you build deep, meaningful relationships in these networking groups, a lot of times that does blossom into some people down the road. So that's more of a long-term play, but it's really very important.
Yeah. Cool. I actually agree with that. It makes a lot of sense. And so right now with your coaching business, looking to the future for the next 1 to 3 years, do you have any specific goals you're working towards?
Yeah. I got to think on that one a little bit more. The last couple of years have been really good for me. So my main goals are I want to be a present father, right? That's number one. And I'm a faith-led individual. So number one is my family and my faith. And I want to maintain a mindset where I can put a lot of energy into those things. From a business standpoint, continue to be self-sufficient, continue to grow my business year over year. And ultimately what that would mean is helping more people. So ultimately being able to help people find their destiny at a greater rate. I'm also looking at ways to be more efficient, right? That's a big thing in the coaching world. It's hard to scale like a traditional business. You don't necessarily have all the staff or the people around you to help you scale and grow. A lot of times it falls on the owner or the coach themselves, right? So that's a way I like to look at how I scale my business is through efficiency. So how do I gather my leads? How do I work with the best people that are going to show up and be prepared? And then how do I work more people through at a higher rate of conversion, right? So that's something I'm always trying to tweak is how can I become more efficient? How can I serve a greater number of people, but also the right types of people, right? Mm-hmm. Never like to screen anybody out. I never like to make decisions for anybody saying, hey, business isn't for you. Mm-hmm. But we do want to make sure that they have the mindset that we discussed earlier and that they're in a position to explore. So yeah, efficiency is a big one for me is over the next couple of years, how can I be more efficient?
Efficiency, interesting. And what we've seen recently is an increase in usage of AI for coaches. I'm not talking about just ChatGPT, basically talking about AI as kind of like an automation tool, or agentic AI has been what we've seen working, at least in eliminating some of the admin work, some of the stuff that you would have to do manually. By the way, right now, do you get any help? Do you have like an assistant or anything like any team member?
My wife, she's super helpful. She helps me with a lot of the back-end admin work. When I send gifts or books, she does all the logistics for me. So that's super helpful. I used to have a VA and I don't anymore, but I am considering picking up another VA as well, because I think helping with that back admin work is very helpful. Now, the interesting thing, because I am a franchise, the Entrepreneur Source does offer a lot of support. So not everything lands on my shoulders. So they do a lot of the invoicing and logistics and legal work and website, that kind of thing. So it is nice that I'm not in the day-to-day with that minutia. Mm-hmm. So they really do help me from that perspective. But VAs are a great idea. I think if somebody can afford one, find a good one. It does take a lot off your plate. Because the way I look at it, and going back to the efficiency conversation, is if you can spend more time on what you love to do, which is generate revenue by working with clients, right, and spend less time on that minutia, you're going to have a more profitable business. So I think it's a very smart move, and I am considering getting another one here soon.
Interesting. And so for anyone who wants to do the same thing, what is the initial investment at the Entrepreneur Source, or is that private?
I think it's public information online. It's a franchise, and it does change often. So they might raise this year over year, but I would say total investment, you probably want to have anywhere between 120, 140,000. And that's just a ballpark of what I remember. So we'd have to go to the website and validate this, right? There's also franchise disclosure agreements that we would have to validate. But I believe that would include the franchise fees, the training fees, all the equipment you need to get up and running. The biggest thing in the coaching world is you got to look for timeline to profitability, right? Some coaches, it took about 4 months to be profitable. Sometimes it takes 6 months, a year, 18 months. So every coach is unique. So you want to make sure you're not setting your family up for failure and running out of money. So depending on your runway, you might need more than that, right? But to get going, franchise fees, training, everything you need, I don't know, probably about 120, 140 is probably a good guesstimate.
So it's definitely not on the low end. It's a considerable investment.
It is.
For most people. And I wanted to get to the investments. That's why I got to this one as well, is over time, for the investments that you've done, what have been some investments that you feel very good about, that you feel like, oh, that was worth the investment, I got a good return on that? And what has been some investments that you don't feel so good about, you feel like, I should have avoided that one as a coach?
In life in general, you mean just different types of investments?
Just mostly for the coaching business.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, the interesting part is I used my 401k and I rolled it into starting my own business. And there's programs where you can do that. It's called a ROBS. And I also help educate my clients in that as well. So I had some 401k money left over. And then when I got laid off, I said, hey, instead of leaving that in the stock market, maybe getting 10% or whatever the average is, I would rather gamble on myself, right? I'd rather put it in on myself. So that's where I took my funds, rolled them over. And that was a great investment because I took it out of the 401k, didn't pay taxes or penalties on it, put it into my own business. And I've been able to absolutely multiply that. So I don't know. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but a lot of times it's a commitment to become a coach, right? You have to go all in sometimes and say, I'm doing this. There's hard days, there's good days, and you have to be committed. So when I said, hey, I'm all in on this thing, I took that okay, and I never looked back. I'm so happy I did that. And then also from a business perspective, I think you got to spend some money to make money, right? So lead generation, absolutely spending money on that. Like I said before, VA, if that's going to help you in your business, probably worth it, right? To some degree. Marketing, you never want to sleep on marketing. Going to networking events can spend a little bit of money as well, but there's no free lunch, right? You got to put that investment in and invest in yourself. That way other people can invest in you, right? So a lot of those things are really important. Also CRM systems, right? You got to be able to manage your people. You got to make sure the workflow is correct. So a lot of things to invest in the business, a lot of surprises that are out there as well. But you want to make sure you're set up in a way where, again, you can become more efficient and scale at a higher rate.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That is a good point. But what about bad investments? Have there been anything like that?
I've had lots of personal bad investments for sure. But from a business standpoint, I don't know. I'd have to think on that a little further. I've tried several things throughout the years, right? I've tried different types of ads or campaigns. To be honest, when you go to networking groups, you're going to meet all kinds of people that can give you advice or LinkedIn help or whatever. And you have to be a little picky and choosy, but you don't always know until you try it, right? So I have enlisted people to help me with certain services, and some of them did not pan out. Some of them panned out greatly, right? Social media. I have somebody help me with social media, and that's been a huge investment that I love, right? But there are some other things out there where you do have to use discernment. Sometimes you get burned a little bit, and that's okay, right? Texting programs. There's a lot of outreach things that may not be necessary. Mm-hmm. And I've got burned on those a couple of times, but nothing major. I don't look back and say, hey, I lost a lot of money on anything. You just got to try it. And it didn't work. And I pulled the plug pretty quick.
That is all great. And so right now, when thinking about your goal of like either working on efficiency and continuing to provide great results for your clients, are you also thinking of like further growing or like scaling? Is that kind of like the goal? I know you're also focused on fatherhood too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would really like to expand into multiple businesses over time. And that's the thing about being an entrepreneur, right? You kind of always have that itch of what's next. So I'm also taking my own coaching advice and I'm looking at new endeavors down the road where maybe my wife can get involved, where I could help on the side. My coaching business is going really well. So that is going to be my full-time endeavor. However, I do believe that having multiple sources of income, if you can get to that point, is great. So I am actively working on what would be my next best investment from a business standpoint. So I absolutely do plan on adding to my portfolio. I just don't know what yet, but stay tuned. I'm sure I'll have an idea in the next couple of years.
What about when thinking about the business, the coaching business itself, it's going really well. Are you thinking that you would grow it even further, or do you like it where it is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I never want to be complacent, but on the other hand, there's always a trade-off, right? So a lot of times, if you want to grow exponentially, you got to put the time into it. And I've kind of come to a point where my first 2 years were good years. I had good years. Can't be mad about it. And then my third and fourth years were almost double. They were really good. I'm highly blessed. And the last 2 years have been great. And that's a great question. And every year I do a business plan and I evaluate where am I and where do I want to go. And the cool part about our business plans is that it does kind of tell you if you want to grow 50%, you're going to need X amount more clients, right? Or more calls. Yeah. So there is definitely a point where it's a trade-off of saying, hey, I can make even double what I'm making now, but there is a sacrifice from the time, quality of life, and you don't want to hit burnout as a coach, right? Because when you're in burnout mode, your clients can sense that and it's never a good experience. So I actually think where I'm at now, if I can maintain where I'm at over the last couple of years, I feel really good on the balance of where I'm at with the business and where I'm at with my family. And I feel good about it. So I would stay here, but I would also grow too if I become more efficient. But I am happy where I'm at. I really am.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've seen in the community from other members who have scaled is if you're doing one-on-one coaching, there's not that many things you can do to scale apart from like having other coaches do the coaching for you and would be managing other coaches. Basically, you'd still do coaching if you wanted to, but you'd be managing a team of coaches, or you'd consider offering group coaching as well. That is also another way to scale. Have you thought of these methods too?
Yeah, so that is one of the restrictions in the franchise agreement. Is that I can't have associate coaches or have other people directly. That would require another license to do that according to the franchise agreement. So yeah, you're right. I am not able to do that at this point. So I can have people have initial calls with people and do my outreach and marketing, things like that. But when it comes to the actual coaches, the franchise wants trained individuals that have the license who made the investment to do it. So yeah, I think that's a great thought. If I could do that, I potentially would, but I'm not able to under the current structure.
Unless you hire coaches that they have trained, or
not the way the franchise works. So the franchise, they want franchisees to then be the coaches.
I see.
So there are people who started out coaching and then their spouse was like, hey, I want to do this. And then they would engage in another franchise agreement. So they're both franchise owners still coaching. But they're not associates of one another.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. So that's good. That gives us a little bit more understanding for the franchise as well. So thanks for sharing that. And right now, final question is for the coaches who are looking to scale their impact. Do you have any advice for those coaches?
Scale the impact. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be kind of an ambiguous question, but a couple of years ago, we had a very successful coach that was breaking records. I mean, just absolutely doing an outstanding job. And he did a little seminar on what he did different. And at first I was like, well, that wasn't very helpful, but it really was. And what he said was he found his why. Why is he doing this? And then he made sure that with every client that he worked with, he portrayed that why. Right? So I know it's a simple concept, but I think that when you are true to yourself of why you're doing what you're doing and you're truly there to add value to your clients, that is where the impact takes place, in my opinion. So in other words, I'm passionate about showing people what's outside of corporate America, right? So when I talk to people, I'm not selling them. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not going to sell them on anything, but I love to get them excited about looking at new things because it's done wonders for me in my life, right? So that passion and that energy on every call that I have translates to just adding an immense amount of value. And again, I'm staying true to who I am and working with the people that can resonate with that. So it is impactful. And I know it's a very vague answer, but man, I think when you know why you're doing what you're doing and you stay true to that, there's nothing better than that, in my opinion.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you. It's a great advice. So thanks for sharing that. And for anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, where would they go? Number one, they can go into LinkedIn, Andrew Ritterling. They will be able to find your profile. Is there any other way they could reach out to you?
The easiest way, I have such a unique last name, is if they go into LinkedIn, say Andrew Ritterling. I'm the only one. I'll pop right up. And then on there are all my links to my website. So I do have a website as well. And I do have tons of LinkedIn referrals. And there's links on each of those to go back and forth, right? So if somebody wants to keep it easy and go through LinkedIn, absolutely.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.